Welcome to the first episode of Just Two Beardos. My name is Ryan Dietert. I'm here accompanied with my co-host, Garrison Stevens, and, of course, the man that makes it all possible, Keaton Bongiorno.
Yeah, how we doing?
Can't wait.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
That's good. So this is a podcast starting off as our fantasy football league. If you want to follow it online, it's called Fook the Mayweathers, which comes from the fight a few years ago between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather.
Yep.
So it's been a long-standing name. So we'll just jump into it with what we have, which is going to be starting off just with the special rules that we have. That way you have a good idea of where we put an emphasis on some stuff. So, for example, quarterbacks usually get 4 points for a touchdown, throwing touchdown. We boost it up to 6.
Yeah, make it a little more interesting, right?
Absolutely. Well, there's just so much weight on running back, so we wanted to put more weight in other places that way.
Exactly. And then we even changed it to a full PPR league as well. So point per reception, which makes it way more interesting, more points on the board instead of scoring way less. So way better, I think.
No, it is. It's way better. You get more chances to win a ball game instead of having to rely on just running backs.
Exactly.
To win you a game. Was there anything else that we have different? Oh, we have, and just to let you guys know, as far as what our rosters are lined up to be, we have 1 quarterback, 2 running back slots, 2 wide receiver slots, tight end, a flex for either a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, defense, and a kicker.
Yep.
And then on that as well, we have, it looks like 7 bench players.
Yeah, 16 total.
16 total. We did
nine starters. What is that? Seven bench spots. Yep.
We didn't expand it this year, right?
Nope. Didn't expand it.
So the reason why I say that is because there was some talk that some people wanted to expand the roster because of COVID and having players out. But me and some other people like the chaos of it all.
Yeah, it's gonna make it interesting this year, especially if one of your top players goes down.
Yeah, it's really going to show you how you can be a general manager.
Oh, definitely.
As well.
It's gonna be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So now that we got that covered, we were going to just introduce the players and their team names.
Yeah, definitely.
That way, when we go through this podcast, you have an idea. Garrison, you can start with my division. Who's involved?
All right, so we got Ryan's team. Ridley, me, this Batman, because of obviously has Calvin Ridley on his team. And then we got Matt as the OG champion, who won the championship our very first year doing this league.
That'll never happen again.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. Then we got Devontae's Inferno for Devontae Adams, who, by the way, has been in the championship the past 2 years and lost both years.
He's the Buffalo Bills of our
exactly Buffalo Bills.
Hey, I have the Bills as my defense. Watch it.
And then, of course, we got Keaton, who hasn't changed his name since the beginning.
Why would I?
As the Greaseballs, which I love it.
Italian.
Which is not racist because he is Italian.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, we gotta be careful with that.
Definitely.
Is that the whole entire division?
That is your division, my friend.
Okay, so the other division includes Garrison Stevens, playing off of the name, the rookie running back from Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. His name is Fresh Prince of Hilaire.
Oh, I love it.
I told him I saw one that said living on a Hilaire. He did not like that one as much.
I didn't like it as much as the Fresh Prince of Hilaire. I just didn't.
And then we have my brother-in-law, Luke Tingey, who's actually going to probably have to change his name.
Yeah, definitely.
He had Saquon last year, so his team name was Saquat.
Yep.
So hopefully he could get that changed up and up to date. Also, Nick Harper, his name, he changed it this year to Dreamville Penn Island. Penn Island.
Oh, I love it.
Is that how it's pronounced?
I believe so. We can have Nick come on the podcast at some point in
Yeah.
time and give us a correct
Yeah, definitely.
pronunciation if it is different.
That might help.
And then lastly, we have Marcus Johnson. Also changed his name this year to Team Oomph. Not really sure where that derives from.
I didn't really understand that one as well. So we'll have to bring him on the podcast and see what's going on with that as well.
That is a
I
question
think
we
that's
should
the
ask.
sound of losing.
Hey,
Based
Marcus
off of-
did
based
come
off of
in
prior-
last year as well. So
You can't get worse than that. So
yeah.
perfect. So that is all the general managers and their team names. We will jump into the rosters pretty soon, but before the draft even happened, we had some breaking news. Probably it happened earlier, but we didn't hear about it till probably half hour before or hour before the draft, and that was our own Garrison Stevens traded his 4th pick for Marcus's 8th, and it just went throughout the whole entire draft of just keeping on those numbers.
Yeah.
So, Garrison, we wanted to bring you on,
Yeah.
which you're already on anyways. But please expound and explain.
Here, let me explain a little bit why I did this. So the 4th pick, you obviously got Christian McCaffrey, Zeke, and you got Saquon Barkley going off the board, which obviously they should. Then you got Kamara and Cook. Kamara already dealing with a contract issue and a little bit of an injury. Cook, I picked him last year, got him late, but Cook still dealing with some injuries, and Kevin Stefanski's gone. So I wanted to trade out of that pick because I didn't want to take either one of them, and I didn't want Michael Thomas. Even though Michael Thomas set records last year. Yes, by the way, people, Ryan does have Michael Thomas on his team. That's why he said that. So I didn't want either of those guys. When it comes to contract issues, I wanted to stay away. So I ended up going with Clyde Edwards, Hilaire, and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, who just got paid. So that's why I was able to get him, and it makes me feel a lot more comfortable. But yeah, that's kind of why I went with the 8th pick there and the back-to-back picks. You can't beat that.
And he knew the only person that would go with it would be Marcus.
Absolutely. Marcus gets picked on in trades. It seems like he gets bullied by Garrison
Oh
sometimes.
my. Marcus is crazy. We'll just
and then after the draft, before we get into the rosters again, surprisingly, Garrison was involved in another trade. So to kind of give you the highlights of this trade here, there was an initial trade, and then more players got involved. All the drama that you would expect with all this kind of stuff, and it was between two brothers, Garrison and Dez. So what Garrison wanted to send over was Allen Robinson II, Ronald James II.
Ronald Jones. Yep.
You just don't like people with their name having the second.
Yeah, if they got that second, I don't like them. No, I'm just kidding.
And then my screen went blank. So
it's all
Josh
good.
Jacobs.
Jacobs went over, and then we got Carson Wentz as well, who I traded from my team because I have Dak Prescott. So the players I'm getting back, DJ Moore from Carolina, Chris Godwin from Tampa Bay, and Chris Carson from Seattle, the running back. So I was completely open to this trade. I have in the past I've made a lot of trades and came in last a lot because I made so many trades. And last year I only made a couple trades and ended up winning the league. So I'm going to lean more towards only making a couple trades a year instead of making 50 trades a year. So
I do remember in the draft, though, as we were all in the kitchen, you were vocally upset that Dez drafted DJ Moore.
yes, I wanted DJ Moore so bad, and he ended up going in the 5th round. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I ended up grabbing Allen Robinson, which I still wish I would have grabbed more over him. But now I got him. Now I don't got to worry anymore.
Great. So that's the only trade so far this year. Looks like it's going to get processed on the 8th of September.
Mm-hmm. Right before the first game.
Right before the first game, which is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and Texans.
Yep.
Houston Texans. Perfect. Well, with that now clarified with all the different trades that we had, we can now basically go over each team. We're going to highlight some players. So Garrison's going to talk on behalf of my division, and then vice versa, I'm going to talk on his division. So Garrison, if you want to start us off here, go over those 4 teams.
Yeah, definitely. So let's start with Ryan's team. So he's got let me just run through his team real quick, and then I'll kind of highlight some of the key players from his team. So we got Lamar Jackson as his starter, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Darren Waller, James Conner, Steelers defense, Zane Gonzalez, Stephon Diggs, AJ Green, Antonio Gibson, Drew Brees, J.K. Dobbins, N'Keal Harry, and the Buccaneers defense. So the guys, I'll kind of go off of what I really like about this team. So obviously you got Michael Thomas. You don't even have to worry about him. He's a set and forget it. No matter who they're playing, you can just put him in your lineup and he's going to dominate. So the guy,
but yet you don't want to draft him in the first round.
I don't take wide receivers in the first round. I don't like it. It's just, I don't know, it bugs me. So, Calvin Ridley. This guy is going to dominate in leagues this year. I absolutely love him. I wanted him. Ryan grabbed him from me. I was hoping he fell to me. He didn't. Opposite Julio Jones, as we know, in a pass-heavy offense, as with the OC Dirt Cutter, who, used to be with ASU. Fork 'em Devils. All right. So I think he's going to absolutely dominate this year. Another player who struggled last year, but I think is going to have a great year this year. But it's understandable that this team struggled last year because of the Steelers, James Conner, because Big Ben was out, which is definitely tough, and especially when you have a backup as Mason Rudolph coming in,
because you just stack the box at that point.
Exactly. And with this pass-heavy offense, I think it's going to open a lot of running lanes for James Conner here, and I think he's going to dominate. The only thing that I'm worried about with James Conner is the injury history. Other than that, I feel great about James Conner, especially in the flex here. I think that was a great pick by Ryan. It was unbelievable. And then another one here is obviously Lamar Jackson, who you didn't even pick in the first 2 rounds. I was shocked who didn't go in the first 2 rounds after the season he had last year. That was shocking. With what he can do with his arm now and his legs, he should be easily top 2 quarterback again this year. And I'm still I'm speechless that he did not go in the first 2 rounds. I was even looking at, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I can get him, and it just didn't happen. But
going back on the Ridley part, I was reaching out to my coworker and my uncle about insight. Both of them mentioned Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely wanted to get him for both of them, kind of seeing that, previewing it, and it made sense to me that he'll have a big year. So that's why I got him, and I knew someone like you would probably pick him up soon. For that as well.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, I thought it was one of the best picks of the draft just to get Calvin Ridley. He's gonna be a stud. I love him. I wish I could have him on my team. So moving on from Ryan's team, we're gonna go to Dez's team here, who I think his starting roster is absolutely stacked. Let me go through it real quick. He's got Aaron Rodgers, Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, who was now traded to me, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Mark Andrews, Chris Godwin, who's traded, DJ Moore traded, Ravens defense, who I think is going to ball out this year, Robbie Gould, the kicker for San Francisco, Jonathan Taylor, though, rookie from Wisconsin, right, Ryan? Right, Wisconsin, playing for the Colts now, Leonard Fournette, who just signed with Tampa Bay, DeAndre Swift, Devontae Parker, James White, who he just dropped to make room for Ronald Jones, and Marlon Mack. So let me just go through this roster real quick. So Julio Jones and Devontae Adams, obviously top 3 wide receivers, both of them. Devontae Adams with a weird year last year, ending outside of the top 20 with a huge run-heavy offense from Green Bay. I expect Devontae Adams to have a huge year this year. Still really weird to me that Green Bay went with a quarterback in the first round. It didn't give Rodgers any help with a wide receiver or anything. Ryan's over here shaking his head. It still shocks me. But with a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, Devontae Adams, and Julio Jones, you just have nothing but consistency on this roster. And with 2 up-and-coming guys like Jonathan Taylor and Leonard Fournette, who could eventually take over that backfield in Tampa Bay, that's a scary roster that I don't really want to deal with. But it's gonna be a great roster for him, and I think he's easily top 4 in our league for sure. So we got the next team I'm looking at here is Matt, the OG champion. We got Tom.
How to go, Keat?
We got Tom Brady, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, George Kittle, Cooper Kupp, Broncos defense, Greg Zuerlein, Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary, Tyler Boyd, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Higbee, Josh Allen, and Phillip Lindsay. So obviously you got Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry who are gonna go for the rushing title this year, obviously. But here's my only problem with those two. They don't catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, which really bugs me, especially being in a PPR league. If this was standard, I think Matt would be at the very top, especially with these two. It'd be unreal. Him and Mike Evans, who is unbelievable, and from news that I've heard is that Mike Evans is already building chemistry with Tom Brady, which is scary.
I'd hope so. We're like a week away from.
I know,
season.
right? Definitely. But they said that's his main gonna be his main target. He's really building a lot of chemistry with Mike Evans here. George Kittle, who obviously is one of the best tight ends in fantasy, who's just absolutely gonna dominate again this year. And then we got Brandon Cooks, who was traded over to the Houston Texans, and I think he was a great pickup for Matt. Definitely a wide receiver 1 who is stepping in there, and I think he's going to get the bulk of the targets just because you can definitely argue with me about Will Fuller getting most of the targets, but can he stay healthy? That's the thing. Can Will Fuller stay healthy? That is my main concern, and I think Brandon Cooks is going to be easily a top 25 wide receiver. Easily. No question, easy. And then we got, for my last one, we got Keaton to talk about. Let me find Keaton's team real quick.
Better be good, Gar.
All right, so we got Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, Mark Ingram, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Hayden Hurst, Bills defense, Keenan Allen, Chris Boswell, Russell Wilson, Austin Hooper, Julian Edelman, David Montgomery, Jordan Howard, Christian Kirk, and Golden Tate. So, I mean, obviously you got Saquon to anchor this team. You got DeAndre Hopkins, who was traded to Arizona, who is going to be absolutely a beast, I think, with Kyler. The only thing that worries me about DeAndre Hopkins is that there was no preseason because of COVID. And how is Murray and Hopkins going to be together? I think they'll be fine. It's just that defense in Arizona was so bad last year. I just really hope that they stepped it up and that we can get more time on the field with the offense here in Arizona. Hayden Hurst was obviously my sleeper.
I remember when I took him.
Yeah, I was not happy when Keaton took him. I wanted Hayden Hurst. He is an absolute beast. With Austin Hooper gone in Atlanta, he's gonna take over all those targets. I definitely could potentially see him as a top 5 tight end if he stays healthy and everything's going good. And then we got the only thing that I didn't well, I don't know if Keaton knew it at the time, but David Montgomery, who is dealing with an injury, a groin injury, should be back on the field, but it's not that big a deal for Keaton's team because he does have Saquon and Mark Ingram to anchor his team at running back. So Keaton can leave him on his bench and just wait for him to heal and be ready. But I think David Montgomery could definitely do some damage a lot this year, especially in that Bears offense, which I'm not expecting them to be great, but they're not horrible. So, I mean,
We'll see you at the championship game.
definitely. So, I'll be back there. I'll be back there, Ryan. Any thoughts, Ryan?
There were some things I'm going to touch on a little bit later on because when I go through the rosters, I wanted to make a point on. But I mean, you didn't even mention Patrick Mahomes. I don't think for Keaton.
I think you don't even have to mention Patrick Mahomes. We already know what he can do. He's the $500 million man. He can. He's going to be unbelievable. He's obviously going to be a QB1. He's just a set it and forget it guy. You don't even have to worry about him. No matter who he's playing, he could play the 1985 Bears, and I would still start Patrick Mahomes.
I'm not saying this about Patrick Mahomes, but it can be for other players. We talked a little bit before we got on. People who get new contracts, some of them tend to not perform because they did get paid.
Definitely.
Case in point, David Johnson.
Yep.
I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is.
No, yeah.
If I did say someone on his roster, maybe Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I would definitely say that with Keenan Allen too. Please don't even get me started with David Johnson here in Arizona. I'm glad that he's gone from Arizona. I liked him, but when Bruce Arians left, it was a whole different story with David Johnson. I don't know what clicked in his head. It was
You got rid
unreal.
of your jersey of him.
I did. I got rid of my jersey. I was that upset with David Johnson.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll jump into the other division, the one that involves Garrison, and we'll start with Garrison here. So, Fresh Prince of Hilaire. Just to run through his roster quickly, he has Dak Prescott, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, Joe Mixon, Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson II. You do have... Oh, no, you're getting rid of him.
Yep, he's gone.
Evan Graham, Josh Jacobs is on the move. Eagles defense, Matt Prater. I pray to you, Prater. Kareem Hunt, Scary Terry McLaurin.
Oh, I love Scary Terry.
DJ Chark Jr., Tariq Cohen, Deontay Johnson, Carson Wentz, and Ronald Jones II, who's also on the move.
Both on the move.
First things that pop out to me on his roster, it's someone who doesn't make a lot of... I mean, he has success on the field, but it's not like Patrick Mahomes or, Lamar Jackson kind of success where they're, winning MVPs and championships. But Dak fills it up as far as a fantasy quarterback.
Oh,
so
definitely.
That was someone I was leaning towards if I couldn't get someone like Lamar Jackson. And he... I mean, it's only going to help him this year because the line is still going to be good. He still has Zeke, but he also has more wide receiver weapons this year. So he has CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, which he already had before, and then Amari Cooper. So he got another weapon, CeeDee Lamb. So that was a solid pick. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, very highly ranked for... not just anyone, but a rookie. So I know he's on Kansas City, and I know just running backs there put up a lot of points, but it's going to be interesting because we've never seen him take the field.
Exactly.
And that could be, was he your first round?
He was my first round pick. So this is the guy in my draft that I was targeting the most. I wanted him the most out of everyone that I drafted. I wanted him the most because he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, and he ran for over 1,000 yards at LSU on that amazing offense at LSU that literally broke every record. And I wanted this guy so bad. Even though he's a rookie, I wanted him.
And then we talked about Josh Jacobs leaving, and you got another wide receiver coming in to take the place of Allen Robinson and DJ Moore. Again, we talked on it a little bit. You were vocally upset that he was off the board from Dez, so you got him back in a trade, which seemed like it looks like we have maybe a camera going low, but
It's all good.
It seemed like you were drafting running backs, and it seemed like he was drafting wide receivers. We were contemplating, was there some insider trading going on?
So there wasn't. That's the funny thing, is that he was drafting all of these wide receivers, and I didn't even know his plan at all. I was like, why are you drafting so many wide receivers? It was stressing me out. So I drafted a lot of running backs. We ended up coming to a deal where he needed running back help, and I wanted DJ Moore really bad. So we both came to a deal, and it ended up really working out. So
it all works out, apparently. So we'll go down to my brother-in-law, Luke, who I think probably has had his best draft since being in this league.
Oh, definitely.
And, to say that someone has a first pick, you would expect that. It's really hard to have drafts when you're the number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough because you get the best player, and first of all, the pressure that comes with that, that person has to perform.
Exactly.
And then you don't get another pick until pick 16.
Yeah.
So I still think he filled out his roster really well.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, going with CMC, Christian McCaffrey, easy number one pick, obviously.
Easy.
So I'll also go through his roster here. So Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Juju Smith, A.J. Brown, Travis Kelce, Miles Sanders, Colts defense, Will Lutz, who Keaton might talk about here a little bit later on. Jarvis Landry, DK Metcalf, Hollywood Brown, Raheem Mostert,
Yep.
Marvin Jones, Sterling Shepard, and Darrell Henderson Jr. So yeah, I was already touching on. I mean, obviously, CMC is the guy who's going to be running the show for him. I had Deshaun Watson last year. It seems like he's always a solid top 5 quarterback. So
easy.
He's pretty consistent. I do worry about Hopkins being gone. I mean, you did touch on the point that he has Brandon Cooks coming in, but yeah, I mean, what if Will Ferrell gets on the team?
I'd draft him.
I would draft him first overall, Will Ferrell, for sure.
Where was I going with that? Oh, but yeah, if one of those receivers goes down, now they're just going to double the other one, and it's going to be rough. And I'm not a fan of their running backs either. I
huge David Johnson fan. I think he'll do decent. Is he going to be a top 10 running back in fantasy this year? I don't think so. I just don't think it's going to happen.
And Juju, you touched on it with Big Ben coming back. I think that's a solid pickup as long as Ben is still there and throwing the ball. I think Juju's going to get back to the kind of season he had a couple years ago. So a very solid wide receiver pick there.
Adding another thing with Juju is he's moving into the slot again, where he used to be. So he's going to be a stud again. He's going to catch a lot of balls. If Big Ben can stay healthy, Juju is going to be a top 10 wide receiver. It's going to be easy for him. So he's already. I feel like he was going to be a perfect wide receiver 1 for Luke. But also I wanted to touch base a little bit on Austin Eckler, who is a PPR monster.
I was about to get to him.
Yeah,
go ahead.
He is a PPR monster. He is going to catch so many balls, but the only thing that worries me is that he has Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback.
That was the exact point I was going to make as well. He is a great receiving running back. Rushing running back, but with Phillip Rivers gone, I don't know how much the offense changes with Tyrod Taylor in there now.
Exactly.
And then, I mean, what if Tyrod Taylor gets benched and you put in Herbert?
Herbert, yeah.
And, it could change even more,
yeah,
whether good or for bad. But so I wasn't really big on Eckler, especially in the first couple rounds. If he was still sitting there in the third round, maybe. Or after that, probably. But I just didn't feel right with Eckler this year. But, probably when we make these predictions, we're gonna be wrong, and
exactly,
we're gonna be hated for it. And when we get guests on the show, they can voice their opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Next team I want to move on to is Nick Harper with his Dreamville Penn Island.
I love that team name.
So just to run through his roster, Kyler Murray, Dalvin Cook, Kenyon Drake, Odell Beckham Jr., Tyler Lockett, Zach Ertz, T.Y. Hilton, 49ers defense, Justin Tucker, which he seems to pick up every year, Cam Akers, Rob Gronkowski, who's back in the league, Matt Ryan, Michael Gallup, Kerryon Johnson, Deshaun Jackson, and Matt Breida. So I was going to you were talking about teams like a Kyler Murray beforehand, a Tom Brady. Who else did I want to point out here? I kind of touched on it with Dak Prescott earlier, but I love these quarterbacks because they have so many weapons now.
Oh, absolutely.
And in the reverse, it really makes me worried for people like who's on Nick's team, Kenyon Drake, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Larry Fitzgerald going to the Bucs. It makes me worried about a Chris Evans, a Chris Godwin, or Mike Evans. I mean, Chris Godwin. Just because there's so many places you can facilitate.
Yep, so many mouths to feed there.
Exactly. And so that's what makes me worried. I love having quarterbacks who have all those weapons. I don't care for big-time receivers who have other good options around them.
Definitely.
So it's not always a bad thing, but it always makes me hesitant. And then especially with Kenny Drake, I mean, you have 3 running backs in that stable, ASU's own Eno Benjamin.
Yep, definitely.
But also Chase Edmonds in there, who had a couple great games.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, did he score 3 or 4 touchdowns against the Giants or something like that?
He was a beast that game. That was a very good game. If Drake does go down, pick up Chase Edmonds because he's going to be a stud too.
Yeah. So, like I said, great for Kyler Murray pickup. I love it. So many options for him to get so many points, and he can run with the ball. The Kenyon Drake, for that same reason, makes me nervous.
If you don't mind me butting in here, what do you think about? What is your thoughts about Odell Beckham this year?
I think he'll have definitely above average year.
Above average year, but no top 5 for Odell this year.
I don't think he could get top 5. I'm not like a huge Baker Mayfield hater, but I also don't think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah,
and he also has weapons around him with
he has so many weapons.
So you got Jarvis Landry, you got Odell Beckham, you got Kareem Hunt,
Austin Hooper coming in.
Austin Hooper,
Nick Chubb.
Yeah. Yep. There's so many people,
so many weapons,
and that's what makes me nervous with those kinds of teams.
Yeah. So the only thing that actually worries me about Odell Beckham is you got Kevin Stefanski, who loves to run the ball. He's gonna pound the rock with Chubb and Hunt, and I don't think Odell's a 100-catch guy this year. I mean, if you look at the season that Diggs and Thielen had last year, they did good, but they're not gonna win you a fantasy football league.
Is Matt's team? Matt has Chubb. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So we're on Nick's team.
Nick has Chubb.
No. We're just making a reference to Nick Chubb on Matt's team.
Yeah.
Well, I thought of a good name for Matt's team if he wants one.
Here we go.
Matt, this is for you. Chubbs for Chubb. Is that is it that kind of show or no?
Anything goes on.
Anything
just
goes
two
in
Beardos.
this show.
All right, there you go, Matt. You know you like it.
Definitely.
Sorry to lose. Did I lose your train?
Oh no.
We were just waiting to see if you had anything else to provide.
That's all I wanted.
No, it's so those are the 2 main things I got from that. I think I didn't bring up Odell because I think he'll do what he's probably expected to do. It's not going to be anything amazing.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett, though, I think is a solid keep. He's definitely wide receiver 1 in Seattle. Russell Wilson's going to give him the ball.
Definitely.
But I mean, you do have DK Metcalf there, but I think Tyler Lockett's probably a little bit more of a sure-handed kind of guy, a guy that you'll definitely go to.
Yeah.
When you need a first down or when you need a touchdown. So
yeah, definitely.
That was a good pickup as well. And, Rob Gronkowski, that's going to be interesting. I'm glad he has him as a backup. I would not have taken him first.
No.
But the fact he has him as a backup ensures, what if Tom Brady and him rekindle the love that they had before?
Yep, in New England, yeah. Exactly. Like, you have a guy like Zach Ertz who is top 3 every year at the tight end position, and who is a target hog who's going to get you 100 catches. And I think it was a great pickup by Nick to grab Rob Gronkowski. I mean, we all know that in Bruce Arians' offense, he does not favor the tight end, but we will see how that ends up, especially with Brady coming in.
I feel like that changes when you have someone like a Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, definitely.
I think he'll definitely be helpful blocking,
Mhm.
but I think Bruce should also realize this guy's one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
Even though he went to a school that should never be uttered.
Yes, that is true. Team down south. We don't talk about them.
And then finally, we'll go to Marcus's team, Team Oomph. Jared Goff, Alvin Kamara. I don't know. I always mess that up.
It's all good.
Le'Veon Bell, Tyreek Hill, who seems to always be on Marcus's roster. Adam Thielen, Jared Cook, Robert Woods, Patriots defense. Harrison Butker from Kansas City as a kicker. David Johnson, Alan Lazard, Larry Fitz, Latavius Murray, Sammy Watkins, Will Fuller the fifth.
I feel like he always has fits too.
I know.
Yeah, he does. He's a big Fitz guy. Debo Samuel. Now, you don't like people with the second. What about the fifth in their name? You okay?
Will
with that?
Fuller, if he can play all 16 games, I'll love him.
Okay. So the players I wanted to key in on here on Marcus's team, Adam Thielen. I think with Stephon Diggs gone, he's obviously going to get fed more. Like I said, I like receivers that are, almost the primary option almost every play.
Exactly. But here's the thing with Adam Thielen. Who is going to steal targets from him? Who is their legit wide receiver 2 that is going to come in and steal all those targets from Adam Thielen?
That's what I'm saying. He can get a lot of targets.
There's no one. I mean, they drafted Justin Jefferson at LSU, who's probably going to play in the slot, who could steal some targets. But other than that, Adam Thielen is going to be a beast this year.
Mm-hmm. Robert Woods also, he gets targeted a ton by Jared Goff. And I was actually going to pick up Robert Woods probably right around the same time Marcus did, maybe a little bit later. I thought he might have gone a little bit unseen, basically. But
definitely.
Marcus picked him up. It was a solid pickup for sure. The things I do worry about on his roster is the guy who is throwing to Robert Woods, Jared Goff.
I'm not a big Jared Goff guy.
Yeah, he had that one great year, and then last year I knew he was gonna suck.
Yeah,
because they just got back. They just got back from the Super Bowl, and I think teams started figuring out Jared Goff.
Exactly.
And he gets spoon-fed from his head coach.
Yep.
What to do, and I don't know. I'm just not a big Jared Goff guy.
Yep. Neither am I. I'm glad he's in our division because I feel like if we had another Russell Wilson in the NFC West, it'd be tough. But Jared Goff, I'm just not a big fan of him. He's just I don't like him. Without McVay, where would he be?
Yeah, exactly. So. And then you touched on it. I don't think it's very clear yet, but you're not a big fan of David Johnson.
No, not really.
So I mean, maybe he does get back to the old David Johnson, but I just remember one game I just saw him, and he was literally jogging in open space.
At that point, I was like, you know what? I'm done with David Johnson. I think that's when I gave up his jersey. Literally 20 yards, no one around him, and we were watching that game together, I remember, and he's jogging down the field. And I'm like, okay, I'm done with David Johnson. And then when we got Drake, I was happy that we traded David Johnson away because I love Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, but I could also see him going off again just to prove
all the haters.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So that's the highlights and lowlights of Marcus's team that I saw here fully. So now that we've gone over each GM and their rosters on what they look like, at least at this point in time, obviously things are going to change. Let's go back to the draft. Who do you think was your personal steal of the draft?
My steal? Or just the biggest steal?
The biggest steal out of everyone.
Biggest steal, I think, was when Dez grabbed DJ Moore. When Dez grabbed DJ Moore in the 5th round, look, this guy had an amazing year last year. He was a high-end wide receiver 2. with Kyle Allen as his quarterback. Let me repeat that for everyone. Kyle Allen as his quarterback. Okay, Kyle Allen isn't with the team anymore, and they brought in Teddy Bridgewater, who is a huge upgrade at the quarterback position. Look, DJ Moore is going to go off this year. I fully believe that with a new head coach in Matt Rule and the offensive coordinator coming from LSU, Joe Brady, I think this offense is going to be good. Are they going to be great? No, but I think DJ Moore could easily, he has that much upside to go to be a top 5 wide receiver. That's my opinion. If you don't agree with that, screw you. No, I'm kidding. But I just think he's going to be a stud. Him and Christian McCaffrey, teams are going to be so focused on Christian McCaffrey that it's just going to be tough. Because, I mean, you have to game plan against Christian McCaffrey. He's going to kill you everywhere. In the receiving, in the rushing, everywhere, he's going to kill you.
I feel like you're just boosting yourself up for DJ Moore.
I love DJ Moore. I am so happy he's on my team.
I get that.
I don't know if I got my point across with DJ Moore, but I am shocked he went in the 5th round. I thought he was the biggest steal.
If you're listening to this podcast and it gets released sometime soon, you can still reject that trade.
Well, I have a question. What's our prediction of how many vetoes we are going to have towards Garrison's trades this year?
That's true.
Hey.
He vetoed his own earlier today.
I'd say we'll have...
I had to veto that one so that I could add more players to this one, to that trade.
At least 3 or 4 vetoes is my prediction.
Oh, my. I am done making trades.
If it's towards... And you know when the veto will happen because it'll be a trade to Marcus.
Yep.
And it'll be some ridiculous crap.
It'll be Ronald Jones for Alvin Kamara. No.
But I was happy he got Chris Godwin back. It seems like a big name, but again, he's one of those guys that's just in a full stable of wide receivers, and Tom Brady's going to have so many choices.
So many weapons in that offense.
So it looks like it's something huge, but I'm not expecting Chris Godwin to have or to do too much for Garrett. And, probably with me saying that, it's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Chris Godwin's going to have a great year. I think that offense is going to be unbelievable this year.
It will, but what I'm saying is there's so many mouths to feed. It's just Tom Brady's going to have a great year.
Oh, definitely.
And that's why I think Matt did a good job picking up Tom Brady. It might be his best statistical fantasy season.
I mean, he even has a stack with Evans and Tom Brady. So,
yeah.
That's even scarier.
Yeah.
Now, who was your biggest steal? Who did you think?
So, I came up with 2.
Okay.
So I'll start with Mostert that Luke drafted. 49ers are heavily running the ball.
Oh,
heavily.
Definitely.
And Breida went on and moved to Miami. So you would expect that he's going to get, just the same amount, if not more, carries now. And Luke picked him up in round 11, pick 81.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN said that he was going to be probably around the 59 threshold. So I really like that pickup by Luke. I think that's a solid. Looking back here on Luke's team, where do we go? I mean, he already has McCaffrey, Eckler, and now Sanders, he could put in his Sanders. I'm not huge on Sanders, but that's still a solid running back there in the flex, and then. Mostert, if he continues to do what he did last year, I mean, you got 4 really solid running backs you can filter around.
He's got Mostert as his running back 4.
Yeah.
So that's huge already.
And then the other steal I was going to mention was by Dez as well, except for he's kept his player, Devontae Parker.
Oh, Devontae Parker.
I think now, our boy Ryan Fitzpatrick, me and Keaton have met this guy. We heard his son play the trumpet in his Speedo.
I almost drafted him just because of the Speedo trumpet memory.
And then we can go back and tell him that he's on your fantasy team.
Exactly.
So whether it's him or Tua that is playing, I think Devontae Parker, he did get way more involved last season under the first year of, I can't remember the head coach's name, Flores. And I just expect him to, take another step. So Dez picked him up in round 12, picked 94. He was scheduled to be around that 61 range. So I think Devontae Parker was a solid pickup by Dez, even though it looked like you stole DJ Moore away from him at a valuable pick. But Devontae Parker, I think, was a good one. So let's take the reverse now. Who do you think was the biggest reach?
Biggest reach of the draft, who I thought coming from Keaton actually.
Wow.
Was actually Patrick Mahomes. So he went in the second round. I didn't agree with it.
We'll see who wins games, bro.
I didn't agree with it. Keaton loves his quarterback.
My philosophy is every time the biggest trades that happen are quarterbacks that are killing it.
Yeah.
And every single time I have a middle ground quarterback, the team that has the best quarterback is usually winning.
We prefaced that with the beginning of the show that quarterbacks get 6 points for throwing touchdowns.
Definitely.
And we talked about we wanted to boost quarterbacks.
So here's my reasoning. Lamar Jackson dominated last year. Rushing, passing. He was on Dez's team. I had Lamar at the beginning of the year, traded Lamar to Dez. Dez ended up in the championship with Lamar and still lost. Now, I'm not saying that Keaton's going to be the worst player in fantasy and he's going to have a horrible team. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to ball out. But didn't Lamar go in the 4th round for you? Didn't you grab him in the 4th round?
I don't know if you have that pulled up.
All I want to do, I knew I had to secure it because being the second player, I felt like coming back up the thing, someone would have snagged him.
It is. I mean, and that's what got me going with Lamar. Was it 3rd or 4th round that I went Lamar?
Which is your biggest steal, so you were even shocked that you got
I thought Lamar was going to go in the 1st round.
So see, there you go.
Because the only reason is because he literally broke so many records last year, which shocked me.
I mean, Mahomes is right up there with him.
So Mahomes last year ended up as QB8 because of obviously the injury. Wasn't even a top 3 quarterback. I'm not sitting here saying that Mahomes isn't going to be a top 3 quarterback. I think with that Chiefs offense, he's going to be really good. Me personally, I just wanted to take him in the 2nd round. That's just me. The thing with it, anyone can draft the way they want. That's why it's your team.
It's America.
That's why we're able to do this.
It's America. I didn't like it. I thought he could have grabbed definitely like a DeAndre Hopkins here or something. But
I did grab DeAndre Hopkins.
No.
So. He has DeAndre Hopkins.
No. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one.
You could have got him twice.
You could have got him twice, Keaton.
If I could have, I would have.
So what I'm saying here is, so you could have grabbed double. You could have even grabbed a Julio Jones here, who Dez got.
Well, while we're going off the stats of like Dez had this guy and got to the thing and then lost, I have been in every playoff and I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll see what happens.
I think it's going to be interesting.
I don't disagree.
I think it's going to be very interesting. I like to wait on quarterbacks. I grabbed Dak in the 6th. That's just my strategy. I didn't like it. That's just mine.
The way I kind of looked at it, I knew at some point in time there was going to be a run on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I was very comfortable with 3. That being Patty Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson, who all of them can throw the rock, but they all can rush and pick up yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to get one of the 3. 2 of them left, and then Lamar was sitting there for me. Did you figure it out whether it was 3rd or 4th round?
Yeah, let me see.
So I don't blame it because rushing quarterbacks, and especially ones that throw as many touchdowns as they do, those are high value picks.
So you got Lamar in the 4th, which I absolutely love because Lamar.
And Patrick was 2nd round?
Yeah. I don't even know how Lamar made it to the 4th.
And then there's another quarterback. Keene actually got him too. Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson got him
comfortable.
Yeah. So
When
even
was
if
that
Patrick
one?
Mahomes goes down, Keaton has still a great.
Yeah, my philosophy,
Quarterback
I just
with-
like to
with
have good
Wilson.
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And
But-
I've always...
But that's his strategy.
Yeah, and that's why
That's
we
what-
talked
that-
about we want to
exactly.
make all positions like almost equal.
Exactly.
That way, in case someone didn't really get a running back, now you have someone else who's good at quarterback or wide receiver and whatnot. So
Yeah, definitely. Even Kyler Murray went before Lamar Jackson.
yeah, I would have taken Kyler.
I wouldn't have taken Kyler
been,
before Lamar.
I
wouldn't
was.
have.
I would have contemplated it with me being a Cardinals fan. Obviously, you can see on video. It would have been hard for me to pass up on Kyler,
Yeah, but I
especially
still
with
would
the
have taken
weapons he
Lamar
has.
over
I think he has
him,
better
yeah.
weapons than Lamar does.
Oh, I definitely agree. But man, Lamar Jackson, he's unreal.
And then that was your reach.
Now, who was your biggest reach?
My biggest reach, oddly enough, they are either current or former Cardinal running backs. I already talked a little bit about David Johnson with Marcus, so I don't have to go too much in depth on that. Even though he was still he was picked in the 6th round, pick number 45, supposed to be picked around pick 40. Just being a Cardinals fan, I just know what I saw on film and what we say to players that I coach, freshman football, film don't lie. And it was just terrible what I saw from him last year. And like I said, maybe he gets rejuvenated with a new team and he has something to prove and all that kind of jazz. But for me, that's just a huge reach to bank on that. Plus, there's other running backs.
Who was the guy?
Isn't Duke Johnson
Kenyon
still there?
Drake? Or you're saying David Johnson was your reach?
He's one of them.
He was one of them.
And then Duke Johnson's still with
Duke
Houston.
Johnson is still there. So you never know. He could be a pass catching back too.
Exactly.
David Johnson is not going to be the workhorse.
And then the other one was, I already mentioned as well, Kenyon Drake by Nick. He went at pick 10. He was scheduled to be at pick 10. And that's really high for Kenyon Drake. He had great, last 6 games of the year.
And that's just a small sample size.
Exactly.
Though. We haven't seen him do this for years. So I just
and
wonder.
how does it change now that DeAndre Hopkins is there? Are we going to be passing more?
Exactly. You don't know. Kenyon Drake has actually been seen in a walking boot. So dealing with an injury, obviously. Is he going to play
Nick,
week
this
1?
Is some bad news for you.
We'll just have to see how everything pans out for Kenyon Drake. I mean, obviously, as a Cardinals fan, I hope everything's fine with Drake, but we'll just have to see how he is from a fantasy point. Is Cliff going to want to pass more? How is it going to be? I think it's going to be very interesting.
No, it will, for sure. Like I said, I already touched on both of those as I was going through the rosters. Those were just my 2 biggest reaches, I thought. So in classic fashion, like I always say on this podcast, is they're probably going to do well.
Yeah.
For Nick and Marcus. So let's go to one hopefully Keaton did his research and started figuring out which one he wanted to pick. But this one, we wanted to see who was that guy that went just before you were going to pick him. It didn't have to be the pick right before, but maybe within the first 3 picks.
Yeah, a couple picks.
Or the one where Garrison brought up, was there something where, you just regretted you should have taken him around earlier, but someone else got him and whatnot. So, Keen, do you have yours? Are you ready? Do you want us to?
I don't really remember. I just remember. I think it's Wentz. I mean, and that sounds Lutz. Who is it?
Will Lutz.
Will Lutz, the kicker for the Saints.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that sounds dumb because it's just the kicker. But I was just like, I want this kicker, and I was about to pick him, and then of course Luke got him.
Yeah, Luke has a really good roster, especially with Will Lutz with the Saints, who do score a lot of points. I mean, it's hard to judge with kickers sometimes, but I feel like Will Lutz is a really good kicker this year.
I'll share mine. And it has to do with Garrison, actually. Garrison was a few picks before me, and I was keeping a hard eye on this guy. Scary Terry.
I love Terry.
I was going to take him that round. Literally, I think it was 2 or 3 picks later was myself. So you ended up getting Scary Terry, which left me to take Stephon Diggs, which, I mean, it's not terrible, but I was going to be a lot more comfortable with Scary Terry.
Yeah.
Because this is Diggs' first year with Buffalo, correct?
Yep.
So I just don't know how it's going to look like. It could be a boom or bust kind of pick,
Yeah.
but I at least kind of knew Scary Terry was going to be, probably pretty much the same.
Yeah, he's going to be a target hog in that offense. There's no one there to really compete with him. Adrian Peterson let go. Rookie running back Gibson that you have actually probably going to get the bulk of the work.
Pick,
yeah. But Scary Terry, he had a great rookie season. I think he's gonna ball out again this year.
All right, Garrett, what do you got for us?
Biggest regret? Oh my goodness. So I had the choice between Josh Jacobs, Kenny Galladay, and George Kittle. I had back-to-back picks, so I drafted Josh Jacobs, which I felt really good about. And then I had
felt so good that you traded him a day later
for DJ Moore, Keaton. So I had the choice between Kenny Galladay and George Kittle. Ended up going Galladay. Wish I would have went with.
So Galladay was your second round pick?
No, Galladay.
Oh, okay.
Galladay wasn't my second round pick. Mixon was.
Got it.
So ended up going with Galladay because I was nervous that I would have no wide receivers. Ended up going Galladay. Wish I would have took Kittle just because of the tight end position is so thin this year that there's not really. I mean, there's definitely way more depth at the wide receiver position than there is at tight end. And I wish I would have got Kittle. Matt ended up getting Kittle a couple picks after me, and I went, dang it, I should have grabbed George Kittle there.
I'm sure you were that calm about it too.
I was very calm on draft day. Back to Kenny Galladay. I still think he's going to be good. I just wish I had George Kittle because I ended up with Evan Ingram, who I got, I think, in the 10th round, which is actually pretty good. The only thing with Evan Ingram is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to play all 16 games? That's going to be tough for him because he's missed a lot of games over the last couple seasons.
Keaton would know.
Yes. Keaton, didn't you have him last year?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was no fun. I hate it when players get injured, and because that's the great thing about fantasy football. You can't predict injuries. I'm kidding. That's the worst thing. But yeah, Matt, if you're listening, I want George Kittle. No, I love Vito.
He goes by Greg Kittle on Part of My Take.
I think Matt got a great guy there with George Kittle. He's obviously going to be top 2. Him and Kelsey. Definitely think that was a great pick by Matt. But I wish I would have taken him.
Congrats, Matt.
So I think we should maybe, I don't know how much more you had, but I think we should end with at least who we predict are going to win this week.
Oh yeah. That's our very end. We still have like a couple segments, and then we got that.
That is coming. Yep.
Which leads us into the next one, which I hope Keaton thought about. If not, we'll go first, and then Keaton can think about it. Your own personal team weakness that you think I'm struggling right there. And I'll start. And I think it's pretty obvious when you look at my roster. It's going to be tight end position. I got Waller, great tight end. He was great for me last year. I just don't have another tight end after that. So, and to be honest, as I was drafting, I was just thinking wide receiver, running back, and trying to fill up the rest of my roster. I forgot that I didn't get a backup tight end, but I'm not too worried about it. I do see some in free agency that I can just pick up. I'm not super worried about it, but usually, and I will say this, probably for most years, tight end is my weakest position. Yeah. I just never... I mean, there was one year where I grabbed Gronkowski, but other than that, I don't really try and get myself a Kittle or
a Kelsey.
A Kelsey, like someone who's just like the best tight end. I don't know. I just don't put a ton of value in it, but the game has changed to where there is definitely a lot of value in tight ends.
Definitely.
So that's what I see on my roster. I got Waller, who's going to be serviceable for sure as long as he stays healthy, and they keep doing what they did last year with them. But that's something I'm going to be on the lookout, looking for tight ends, after the first couple weeks or so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, tight end is thin. It's very thin this year. And if you don't have one of those top 5, 6 guys, it might be a little tough. You might have to stream for some tight ends week to week. But, I mean, if you got a good tight end, then you're set. So let's go to my biggest weakest point, I think, of my roster. Also the tight end position. Evan Ingram, even though I got him in the 10th round, when he's on the field, he's good. But is he going to play all 16 games? That's the huge question. I don't see him playing all 16 games. I may have to look to the waiver wire to grab another backup tight end. If he does play all 16 games, he can easily be top 3. Because this guy, especially with Daniel Jones now at the quarterback position, I think he's going to target him a lot. Hopefully Ingram can stay healthy. I mean, we don't wish for any injuries, obviously, but that's definitely my biggest weakness is the tight end position.
Perfect. All right, Keto.
Probably my running back position. I have Saquon, but besides that, I don't know. I don't think I think only one on my bench too. One running back.
Yeah, so it looks like you got Montgomery, Jordan Howard, Mark Ingram, who was a stud last year.
I have 2 on the bench?
Yeah,
Okay.
You got 2 on the bench. Yeah, Mark Ingram, who was actually really good last year, but the only thing that bugs me with Mark Ingram is J.K. Dobbins is right behind him.
And who I have.
Who Ryan has. Who, rookie out of Ohio State, who could eventually take over that backfield. We just don't know when that could happen, if it does happen. But I think Mark Ingram is definitely the starter for sure right now. It's just, is J.K. Dobbins going to take over that backfield?
Yeah, and keep an eye on Jordan Howard. They just got rid of Kalen Ballage in Miami, so the stable there has gotten a little bit thinner. So they could be leaning on Jordan Howard.
Howard and Breida are Miami's running backs.
Yeah, so I would assume Breida might be the starting running back, but you never know.
And you have David Montgomery, who coming back, he's going to be the workhorse. I mean, Tariq Cohen is not going to sit here and get 20 rushing, 20 touches a game. Maybe receiving, not targets. But he could definitely get a couple touches. But David Montgomery is definitely the guy who is going to get most of the touches in that backfield when he's healthy.
Sweet. So that was our personal team weaknesses, which was going to lead us into basically me and Garrison coming up with just what our power rankings are at this point in time. So after the draft, after the first initial trades done by Gare and Dez. So, Garrison, can you give us your 1 through 8 of power rankings before the season starts?
Yeah, so, looking over all the teams and seeing everyone, I think it's a no-brainer. The very first one, you got to go with Luke. His team is all around just really good. A lot of upside, a lot of guys who are going to be consistent. And you got Christian McCaffrey, obviously. I think Luke is for sure number 1 right now. Number 2 is Dez, for me at least. I think his starters are going to be really good, very consistent, especially with Josh Jacobs coming in for him, and he's already got Adams, Julio, and Zeke. I think that's going to be a scary roster to go through week to week. I had third me.
Shocker.
Yeah. Hey, I put myself at 3, not 1. I think I got a pretty solid roster. I think except for my tight end, I think I got a pretty solid roster to go around. Number 4 was Ryan for me. Ryan's got a pretty good team, especially anchoring with Michael Thomas and Lamar Jackson. Those guys could put up 40 pieces a week, easy. You just never know when they're going to blow up. They're going to get you those consistent numbers, but are they going to put up 25 or are they going to put up 40? You just never know. Number 5 for me was Nick. I like his team. I wonder how Drake's going to do. T.Y. Hilton dealing with a better quarterback than Phillip Rivers this year. I think he's going to do pretty good, especially with Kyler Murray, Dalvin Cook. I think he's got a solid team that could definitely do a lot better. Keaton, number 6 for me. Let me find Keaton's team real quick. Keaton's got Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley. I mean, those two right there obviously are studs. DeAndre Hopkins as well. Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is going to be a beast in that Dallas offense. That's going to be one of the best offenses in the league. And then Hayden Hurst getting all those targets too. And then anchoring with a nice Bills defense too. Always want a good defense on your team, and I thought that was a solid pickup from Keaton to get that Bills defense. And then number 7 for me was Matt. So here's the thing why Matt's number 7 for me. I like Derrick Henry and Chubb a lot. I like that stack if this was standard league. Since it's PPR, they don't catch a lot out of the backfield, so you literally have to sit here and go, okay, they have to get over 100 rushing yards. Cortland Sutton, I'm not huge on Cortland Sutton. That's just my personal opinion. I do think Cortland Sutton is going to be good, but you got Drew Lock throwing him throwing him the ball. So I just don't know about that. I don't know how Lock's going to play. It's going to be very interesting to see how things shake up in Denver. Cooper Kupp, I think he's good, but tearing his ACL. What was that? It wasn't last year. It was the year before, right?
I can't remember.
But I just it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then my last one is number 8 is Marcus. I like Kamara, Hill, Thielen, and especially Woods. I think Woods is going to be better than Kupp this year. But going with Jared Goff as your quarterback, I don't really believe in Le'Veon Bell. Jared Cook is a boomer bust for me. Jared Cook's that type of guy that will get you 3 touchdowns one week and then will end up with 6 points the next week. I'm not a big Jared Cook fan. Even with even on a really solid offense like New Orleans, but I'm not a big Jared Cook fan. But that's kind of my rankings there. What do you think, Ryan?
I just want to point out to everyone that's listening to this podcast, which I'm sure is hundreds of thousands of people,
and all the millions.
Millions and millions.
Millions and millions and millions.
That when we came up with all this stuff to share on the podcast, we wanted to make sure we didn't want to talk about it or release each other's picks until we got on the air. So with that being said, mine's pretty similar to what Garrison had. So I'll start. I'm going to make it a little bit more climatic here. I'm going to start from the bottom and go up.
Okay, all right. I like that.
So bottom it's Marcus, and I hope I'm wrong because
Marcus ends every year.
We just need to get him to do a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely.
But to make points that you haven't already shared already, I just think his bench is not very strong.
No, I couldn't agree more with you.
And it, like for a week, like a week 1, week 2, things where you have your full roster ready to be played, he'll be probably fine. He'll be in some of these matchups. It's when you start getting these bye weeks and he has to put in a Alan Lazard, he has to put in a Sammy Watkins or Will Fuller, that's where I'm going to get worried. I'm not too worried about the QB situation yet, because we only, I think he could probably find, there always seems to be a QB that's going to, come out and do well. So he can make that switch. I'm not too worried about the QB part, although it wouldn't be my first pick. But you never know. He might start off hot. He might have a good season again.
Definitely, you never know.
And then number 7, I also have as Matt.
Yeah.
And to touch on, things that you weren't talking about, but I love the Tom Brady pick. I love how many weapons he has, and like I talked about before, he has Mike Evans, which is not gonna. I feel like he's not gonna get as many targets.
Yeah.
He touched on the running backs he has are not very good at pass catching. There was another point I was gonna make here. I don't know if he did this on purpose or not. He has Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay.
Yeah.
Did he do that on purpose to see which one might come out?
Might boom.
It's not a bad
strategy. It's not a bad strategy, but at the same time, how much do you trust that offense in Denver? Do you trust that offense?
If they can't pass that well, guess what they're going to do?
They're going to have to run the ball a lot.
So,
but then does that mean stack boxes?
Yeah,
exactly. So
I mean, you got Cortland Sutton, you got Jerry Jeudy too.
Exactly.
They got pass options. You just hope Drew Lock can make some plays and, like you said, keep the box. Instead of 8 men in it, you can maybe get like 6 or 7.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I have Matt at 7, just for those purposes. But I am intrigued to see what he does with that Denver running back situation. Number 6, this is, I think, where we differ the most. You had Dez pretty high. I don't have Dez that high.
Really? You had Dez at 6?
Yeah. Not a huge fan of Rodgers. Not the fact that he can't play football. It's the offense that he's in. It's a lot more run heavy.
So here's the thing. This is why I have Dez so high. I don't think Dez is going to start Rodgers week to week. He just got Carson Wentz, who I think is going to have a better year, who I think is a top 8 quarterback easy. I don't think he's going to start Rodgers week to week because I couldn't agree more with you. It's more run heavy. They're not gonna. He's not gonna sit back and throw for 40 touchdowns like he used to. I definitely agree with that. I didn't like the Aaron Rodgers pick at all. But I do think he has a solid roster. Starting roster at least. It's going to be interesting to see how the Tampa Bay running backs turn out for him.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He's got Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, he can do what we thought maybe Matt's doing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Dez was thinking. Yep. I'm just going to get both and see which one comes out.
Yep.
Taking the most carries, the most touches. So his running back room is not, other than Zeke, I'm kind of on.
The guy that I think
unproven in there.
The guy that I think that could definitely blow up for him is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Is later on. Yep.
And I got a couple rookie running backs too, just for that case in point, just to see if they blow up. So, but what else was I going to say on this part of it? I don't know. It just nothing. I mean, Zeke, again, it's another guy that's in an offense that has a ton of weapons. And running backs get a lot of touches. Don't get me wrong, but I think he might get it a little bit less. Although Sherman, is that his name, right? The coach, Sherman?
McCarthy?
McCarthy. Why
McCarthy.
Was it? Sherman was the previous Packers coach, I think.
Okay.
So McCarthy's there, who I think is probably he was a lot more pass heavy with Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing: you got Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, who made Dak a top 3 fantasy quarterback last year. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, is Zeke gonna get those 300 touches? We don't know.
You got Cooper. You got CeeDee Lamb.
And Gallup.
And you got Gallup.
And then you got Blake Jarwin as your tight end, who isn't a huge name, obviously.
Yeah.
But you don't pay Zeke that much money to not give him a bunch of touches, right? Possibly. I mean, that's my thought.
Julio, I had him a couple years ago. Really disappointed. He'll get numbers,
get so many yards. It's just the touchdowns.
Yeah, he doesn't get targeted that much in the end zone. So that's why I kind of had. I mean, the more that you talked about his team, though, the more I'm willing to move him up. But just right now, I'll have him at 6. 5th, I have Nick, which I think is where you had him as well.
I had Nick. I had 5th.
So again, love the Kyler Murray pick. Not sold on the Drake part of it, especially as a 10th overall pick. OBJ. I think Lockett's going to do good with Russell Wilson. 49ers defense, I think, also is going to get him probably quite a few points each week.
Yeah, definitely. And the pick I really like that Nick got was Cam Akers. I mean, this guy's been impressing in L.A. I mean, is he going to be the RB1 there in L.A.? If he is, I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah,
I honestly do.
And then number 4. I actually have you, Garrison. Solid roster, obviously. I really love the Prescott. Again, he's not known just around football for just being an elite player, but he's an elite fantasy player.
Definitely.
And it's just a fact about Hilaire. I'm just still, I just got to see it.
Yep.
I just got to see it on the field.
Definitely. He's unproven.
And Mixon, I always get worried with really sucky teams and taking players from them.
So the thing I had with Mixon is he had Andy Dalton as his quarterback last year, which obviously they didn't like. They let him go. They pick up Joe Burrow. They get back Jonah Williams on their offensive line, who missed all last year. I think that Mixon only goes up from here. I think this offense is going to be way better than it was last year, and Mixon still had a good year last year, even though they were the worst team in football. But I like Mixon. I think he's going to be good. I may be the only Mixon believer here in our league, but I like Mixon a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sold on him. Scary Terry. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Obviously, I talked about him that I wanted him. So I know he's currently on your bench, but I could see him, even taking over Galladay, Galladay's spot, maybe eventually. I'm not a big Galladay guy either. Yeah. It just the Lions just makes me nervous. Yeah. I mean one of these years Stafford is going to be terrible.
I mean, as long as Stafford stays healthy, I think Galladay is going to be solid.
Number 3, I actually have Keto in our production room. I really like what he did. Where he's at the bottom here. I really like his whole entire starting QB, running back, wide receiver. Mahomes, Barkley, Ingram. Yeah, we talked a little bit. I'm not sure if J.K. Dobbins gets in there and steals some reps.
Yeah, you never know.
Hopkins he's gonna get his targets. Kyler is gonna be looking for him, but again, he's part of a team that has a ton of options. Amari Cooper, again, he's gonna get targets, but now there's more options. You got CD Lamb. So,
but what do you think about the Keenan Allen? Is that he's got Tyrod Taylor throwing him the throwing him the ball now. So
the good thing about Keenan Allen though is he's pretty much the only receiver.
Yeah.
He's going to be leaned on a ton. Yeah. So he's going to get a lot of targets. Are those targets going to be accurate for him to catch? Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll have to figure out how Tyrod Taylor does at quarterback. And then he kind of took in a monopoly here on the quarterback. So Mahomes, and then, he picked up Russell Wilson, who was in the talk for MVP of the league as well.
Yeah.
So, if he could use that as trade bait if he really wanted to. Yeah. Maybe to a Marcus?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Maybe someone's quarterback goes down and he can maybe get even a better running back if J.K. Dobbins takes over that spot.
Also, love one of his bench receivers here, Julian Edelman. I picked up N'Keal Harry, thinking maybe Cam Newton's going to lean on him. Maybe he won't. Maybe he just does the Tom Brady and relies on Edelman. So Edelman is another guy who gets a lot of targets and he gets a lot of catches, and that's huge for PPR. So I just like how his roster's filling out, and I think he could go quite a ways with it. Again, we'll have to see how those targets are separated with the Cowboys and Cardinals, and Ravens with Ingram. So. Yep. Number 2, I gave you a hard time for putting yourself 3. I put myself number 2.
Okay.
Like you were talking about, Lamar Jackson, he just puts up points. He gets a lot of rushing yards, a lot of rushing TDs. He gets passing TDs.
He's almost like another running back.
Yeah,
on your
he
team.
is, but he throws the ball.
Exactly.
And that's why I love him so much. I will say there are a couple things that worry me, and it's my starting running backs even. Aaron Jones, can he have the same season as he did last year? Not sure. I hope he does. Todd Gurley, he was injured last year. Can he revitalize his career with Atlanta?
That's the thing with Atlanta. Are they going to give him 200 touches?
Exactly.
That's going to be the thing.
And that's what worries me. Is my running backs, to be honest. I know I said tight end, but now that I'm looking at running backs, it's making me a little bit more nervous about that. Love my receivers though. Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley. I got AJ Green. I'm interested to see how he works with Burrow.
Oh, I think he's going to be great. As long as he's on the field, he's going to be good.
Yeah. And I think it was last year he just sat out, right?
Yeah, he was injured all year, yeah.
So Hopefully he could get back to normal there. So just overall, I think I have a pretty solid team. I am leaning on my running backs to get back to where they were before, as in Gurley and Connor, and also banking on the fact that Aaron Jones could have a similar type of season as he did last year.
Yeah, definitely.
If those work out, I think I definitely have a top 2, top 3 team.
Yeah.
In the league. And then number 1, I agree with you. I think Luke has the number 1 team.
His roster is stacked.
Kelsey, A.J. Brown, who just went off as a rookie last year.
He
Again,
could
we
even
talked
blow
about
up
Juju
again.
getting reps again at slot.
So would you say the one guy you don't like is the Miles Sanders, or?
Yeah, I'm not big on Miles Sanders. I know. I mean, I'm reading some of the stuff. It looks like he's going to get more of a workload this year, but I don't know. I just don't trust it. But again, this is his number 3 running back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
if you told me would I take Miles Sanders as number 3 running back, absolutely.
Absolutely. I would. The thing with Miles Sanders, he's dealing with an injury. He lost Brandon Brooks for the season, one of their best offensive linemen in Philadelphia. Am I going to sit here and say Miles Sanders is going to be a horrible running back? No. He's going to be really good. The only thing that worries me is that injury. Is that going to be lingering all year, or that's my biggest concern?
His bench is awesome too. I talked about being a steal. Is Mostert, Hollywood Brown on his bench.
Hollywood Brown's going to dominate this year.
Yeah, I mean
think.
Lamar's going to have to throw it to someone.
Yep.
Might as well be him and probably Andrews.
Him and Andrews.
So he's got really good depth as well for whenever we do hit those weeks where there's buys. So that's my current power rankings right now. And this leads us into what Keaton wanted us to go over is the previews for this week. So
matchups, yeah. So I'll go ahead and start with mine. So my matchup, Luke versus me. Obviously, it's gonna be that is a tough week 1 matchup, especially with Luke's team because his team is so stacked. I do believe I have a chance to beat Luke. I just think it's going to be a great matchup because I think we both got really solid rosters. We will see how it plays out, but I think it's definitely going to be a great matchup for week 1. Next one, Dez versus Nick. I have Dez winning this one. I think his roster just is going to fill out real nice after he takes Rodgers out and after this trade goes through. And I think I'm not saying he's going to sit here and blow out Nick, but I think he's gonna beat Nick. Don't know what's going to go on with Dalvin Cook. People saying he might hold out, he might not. Leaning towards he's not going to hold out. Kenyon Drake, is he going to be available for week 1? I think it's going to be interesting. But Kyler Murray, I mean, I think he's going to be good week 1 too.
He had big games against the Niners last year.
He did. And that was one of the best defenses last year.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to my next the next matchup, Matt versus Ryan. I have Ryan winning this one.
Easily or
I wouldn't say easily, but I definitely think you're going to win.
Heard it here first, Matt.
With Ryan's roster that he has, James Conner healthy, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's going to come out. They're going to dominate. I think the only one that Ryan kind of touched on that he was worried about, Todd Gurley. We just don't know how much he's going to be used. That's the only thing we're worried about.
I don't know who their other running backs are. That's why I was so high on Todd Gurley's, because who else are they going to play instead of him?
Edo Smith?
Exactly. No one knows the name.
Nobody knows him. I'm kidding. But I think Ryan's going to win this one, especially with that Steelers defense. That is going to be one of the – I thought that was the best defense to go. I think their defense is going to be unbelievable this year. They got Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think they're going to be great this year.
And you also got, the Browns and the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going up against twice a year.
Exactly.
That's going to help.
The only thing they might struggle with a little bit is Lamar.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last one, Marcus versus Keaton. This one's obviously easy one for me. Keaton's gonna win this one. I don't think it's close. I think Keaton's gonna blow him out. Obviously with Patrick Mahomes and Saquon, he wins that already, the QB and running back matchup. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is just gonna dominate. Hayden Hurst, the tight end that I really wanted, Keaton grabbed, which I thought was one of the best picks for Keaton, because he got a great tight end who's walking into a ton of targets. But
is he though?
I mean, with Austin Hooper gone, he's the guy now. So
you got Julio.
I know, but
Ridley.
But you got Julio, Ridley. But how much are they going to trust Gurley? That's the thing. We don't know how much they're going to trust Gurley. I mean, I definitely think it's going to be interesting. Marcus, he's got Kamara. He's dealing with the whole contract thing. He sat out a couple practices, got fined. He's still got some solid pieces, but I think Keaton wins this one.
Amen.
I thought he was going to say something. I will also start with what I think is the matchup of the week, and that's Luke and Garrison. It's going to be interesting to see these two battle it out, especially when both of them have full rosters, no bye weeks for any players. And I believe the same. I think Luke's going to beat Garrison. I think he just has this roster that's set up to be very successful. But Garrison is going to make it competitive, and he's going to have a good team this year as well. I just think Luke is just going to be able to take it this first week. Nick and Dez, I think this is the only one we differed on, and I'm taking Nick.
Taking Nick on this one?
Yeah, I just really think his roster is probably a little underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Murray and Cook. Odell's going to get his touches, even though Landry's there. And again, I keep going back to this Lockett.
Yeah.
I think Russell's going to use Lockett a ton.
Yeah. I think the only thing that worries me with Cook is Stefanski's gone and the injury history.
And don't forget about his flex there, T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton,
who
I
has
think he's going to be
Phillip
good.
Rivers this year. He doesn't have Jacoby Brissett. He has Phillip Rivers, who's one of the best passers in the history of the NFL. So I think Nick is a little bit underrated, and I think he edges out Dez. I think it's going to be close. I think a lot of our matchups this year are going to be close.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's got such a balanced and nice rosters that there's no clear cut number one, this guy's going to win it, everyone give up type of team. Luke is definitely leading, I think, but you never know with injuries and everything that if that's going to be like that for the rest of the season.
Which leads me into my own personal matchup with Matt. I'm going to win. Don't need to say anything else other than that.
I'm a winner.
I'm a winner.
I'm going to win.
Okay, Denzel. I love it. Remember the Titans.
Yeah, I think as long as you were talking about, as long as Gurley, can get back to, Gurley numbers, Aaron Jones does what he did last year, and Connor coming back from injury, I think I should be favored in probably most matchups.
Yeah.
But again, it's really close. It's going to change week to week.
Oh, definitely.
With the own matchups.
But the thing with projections, I don't believe in them. It says that Luke is supposed to blow me out, but you can way overscore or underscore. You just never know how that player is going to perform. So I don't really listen to projections.
Mm-hmm. No, I never look at it. And then lastly, I agree. I think Keate's going to beat Marcus. I think just Keate has the better overall team that we kind of talked about, especially I think if Marcus continues with Jared Goff. So those are our projections for this week. Keate, did you have any kind of insight or anything you wanted to say about any of these matchups?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Yeah. I still don't like Goff. Marcus, if you're listening, go for a better quarterback on the waiver wire. Unless Goff.
I'm not going to say that. I don't want you to second guess yourself, Marcus, but just keep an eye on it.
I'm just not a Jared Goff believer. Let's just leave it at that. Marcus, it's your team. You can do whatever you want, but I don't like Goff.
But it's terrible. So, yeah, we can close it out with any final thoughts from anyone. Any final thoughts from Garrison or Keat?
I'm good. Keat, you got anything?
I'm good.
All right.
I just wanted to say it's crazy. The game of football is so crazy, and doing fantasy football, because when you draft someone, you're taking the fact that there's 21 other players, offense and defense, that go into account for that. You were talking about how the defense being on the field the whole time for the Cardinals takes away from Hopkins getting more plays. So
exactly,
you just got to think about this stuff, and it's crazy, and it's so impossible to predict who's going to do well, who's going to do terrible.
Yep.
So it makes it a lot more fun, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Exactly. I think it's going to be a great year. I think all of us are going to have a lot of fun, and
that's all it's about, just fun.
Yep, it's gonna be a ton of fun this year.
Remember that, Garrett. It's about fun.
Yeah, I get a little over competitive sometimes, maybe a little bit, not a lot. No, I am very competitive.
Needs to watch out.
I'm very competitive, and I like to win, obviously. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun year. I think everyone has a chance to win this year. I think it's.
What's the pot? What is the pot again in our league?
30 times 8, 240.
240. Is that
yeah,
240?
but it's split up between 3.
Yeah.
That's that college education right there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yep. See, I couldn't do the math.
No. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up our first podcast here.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Just we have our first football game Thursday, Texans versus the Chiefs.
Yep, I'll be watching.
And we'll just see how everything goes out for throughout this week, and then we'll be back with you to recap week 1, look towards week 2. We'll have some awards to be given on a weekly basis, maybe some other stuff. But other than that, I think we're just gonna peace out from the villa.
Yep, from the villa. Just 2 Beardos here saying goodbye.